Well, this is where I used to buy all my old Spectrum games. Got my first Spectrum out of here back when I was a wee bampot. It used to be a John Menzies on Miller Street, now it's a Tesco Metro, and they don't sell Spectrum, they just sell milk. So, changed days. Happy memories though. Oh look, here's a pile of old games I used to play quite a lot. Back in the day when I was a Spectrum fanboy, things were very different. For one thing, you didn't have anywhere near the choice you have nowadays. Sure, I could have got a C64 when that came out, but by the time it came out the Spectrum was already part of the family, you know? Well, I say part of the family, but it never went out for the messages or did the dishes or anything. It's not like a computer nowadays. But aye, there wasn't as much choice back in the day, so that must have been a bad thing, I suppose. Well, no really, no, because it just meant that whenever you did get your hands on a game, you paid more attention to it. Just sometimes though, I look back in games like this, like Jetman and Alchemist, and I wonder whether they deserve the amount of affection that I actually have for them. Whether they deserve the time that I spent playing them. Was the only reason I played the Spectrum because there simply were no other options? But always just as I start to think like that, I remember a game like Penetrator. I just adored this game when I was a wee man, and thank God it's still a really good game to play. I know what you're thinking, it looks fairly basic, doesn't it? But that was part of the charm when it was because it was so basic, it just meant that it was a fast loader. Fast loader, fast in the old sense of the word fast, obviously. Harrier attack never really kept you waiting either, but it just never quite seemed to have the same flow that Penetrator had. And they disappearing bullets are a right pissel. This one's a game called Equinox. I played this obsessively when I was younger, but I loaded it up the other day and I can't really seem to make head nor tail of what it is. I must just be getting old. This obviously is Paperboy. There was a time when you were a Spectrum Games player that everybody seemed to be playing Paperboy. It's maybe a shocking confession, but Paperboy was never actually one of my preferences. I think I only ever played it out of peer pressure. This one on the other hand doesn't really come down to preference. It is actually illegal to talk about great Spectrum games and not mention Manic Miner. Now if you say you don't like Manic Miner, then I say you're a freak and you need to be in a grave, because Manic Miner sparkles. It sparkles like no other Spectrum game can. It sparkles like classy Freddie Blassie and Ric Flair in a barrel full of diamonds. And that right there that you're watching right there is part of gaming history. This is Nightlore. Nightlore doesn't sparkle, it's an entirely different proposition altogether. I still feel the same way I felt the first time I played Nightlore. It was the first time playing a game made me feel uneasy. It was good looking for the time, but it gave you a feeling like there was something going on in the background, something you couldn't see. There was a maturity to it that was lacking in an awful lot of Spectrum games, and that motion that you see him doing over and over again was pretty much the way I looked when I was playing the game in certain sections. Spazzing out all the time. Speaking of spazzing out, here's Renegade. I remember thinking at the time when I owned Renegade for the Spectrum that it was like having an arcade machine in my house. What the bloody hell was I thinking? Look at it. I mean, it was pretty fun and everything, but a lot of kids in my age group were out battling real big berthers when I was playing this. Wasted youth, maybe? I better not let Big Daddy Chucky hear me say that. Because for a good number of years now I've had the knowledge that I owe Chucky Egg and its creator Nigel Alderton a debt of gratitude. Because Chucky Egg was the first game that made me think I might be playing games for the rest of my life. Think of how many of us have had a game of ping pong or bat and ball and thought that seems like quite good fun, but then never really picked it up again. And consider that that's how most people feel about computer games. So how could I have chosen anything other than Chucky Egg as my favourite Spectrum game, because without it I might have ended up presenting Ping Pong Vania.